Well, it is interesting because Labour says that it is not just paying us that it is consuming that huge amount, and it's more with the political class, and they've made that point over and over again. Even though we're yet to differentiate really how much goes to a wage bill and how much actually goes to the political class. But you raised a very interesting point in terms of productivity, which are things that we were saying that we hardly talk about. How do you think that we can actually begin to make that a part of the conversation? Yes, a minimum wage review, upward review is in order, but we must be able to get value for money.
Exactly, that's what we're talking about. Some of these states, the economic activities there are largely informal. They are not even captured within the tax net. So formalizing most of these informal activities around the state becomes a big tax. You also see, we have been talking about restructuring and fiscal federalism. There are a lot of laws that are impeding these states from converting economic activities in their state to revenue or to IGR. For example, the solid minerals we've been talking about that is going to replace oil after agriculture in Nigeria. How can states benefit from it? Where if a company is going to explore solid mineral, you have to take approval from Abuja. You have to pay tax to Abuja, company income tax, the VAT, the import duties and everything to Abuja. That discourages the state from opening up such sector in its fund within the state, because nothing coming in except the personal income tax is coming to him. And how much is the wage bill?
Well, we've heard that the states can partner, because we raised this question with the Minister for Solid Minerals that he was a governor, he faced that particular.
Did he tell you how much if the state partner, how much income or what is the sharing ratio between the federal government and state? These are the things and it's not just saying it between the state, the minister himself and the governor in charge. Now it needs to be legally binding. If not, you find yourself in problems.
Should there be a sharing formula again? If a state decides that they want to partner with a company and they want to be able to, go into mining and exploration of a particular resource, what's the federal government's business aside the license and tax that they're supposed to be getting?
We've always advised that government should should take their hands off economic activity that private sector can, because we've tried it over and over, not just in Nigeria. We find out that government are not great business people. We are not great industry people.
But if
by the time government partner with private sector, maybe have even just 25%, which is a minority interest, there is going to be a lot of political interference in the efficiency and the effectiveness of such an entity, and that is our concern.
But that's not always the case. I mean, we've seen that with the IOCs, we've seen that with NLNG, which you're about to give the example. That is not always the case.
Exactly, but the sustainable policy is the fiscal federalism, where states are allowed to open up economic activities in their region or in their states and pay a certain percentage to the federal government, so that the roads we're asking them to try to open up the industry, the company income tax is coming to the state, and company income tax is very, very crucial for the states to begin to earn, and you need to amend our laws to make this happen. There are other things that also need to be done. Physical rascality, most of these states are even too close as far as transparency and their budget operation, income and expenditure is concerned. They need to be opened a little bit more.
And speaking about that, if we could stretch it a little further, labor, for instance, and now I won't be surprised if many states call in and say, no, we're not owing salaries for that figure. Do you think labor is helping out here? Because if state governments say, no, we're not owing, or we can't pay minimum wage
at 18,000.
Yeah, and we ask labor, why don't you publish your figures, because you have your members in those states? So wouldn't they help if they were to bring out those documents against the state saying, though, we're not viable, we can't pay? That will help the argument.
Exactly. I think Labour also need to do some harder work.
Because they have the research directors also in their offices.
Exactly. Maybe we use this a platform to call on Labour to do more, supply the necessary figures state by state, so that we see. But even at that, government at state level and federal level need to change some of the physical rascality character that we see. Traveling abroad for medical trip, the SSCs of their personal assistance, all of those, the states need to show us that we are in a financial crisis time, and it should reflect in the way they behave, the way they act. The private jet issues, the SS personal assistance, and all the bogus lifestyle that we're seeing need to be curtailed, because you cannot you cannot fault the labor. Labor have looked at the inflationary issues, petroleum prices, of course, the PAC, not PAC, and the discos, increasing tariff for power, electricity, by as much as 40-something%. And most of this power you never get to see. So all of these are hitting workers. And that is the response we're seeing from labor. But then labor need to go a little bit more to show us concrete data like we're seeing in the screen now, so that you are able to drill down your point.
What about employers? How do you think that, you are a member of LCCI, are employers also looking to see how this debate goes with labor and the federal government?
Exactly. Unfortunately, and because of the prolonged challenges that the employers of labor and the industry are having, exchange rate issue affects availability, inflation, and harsh economic environment in terms of policy uncertainty, double taxation over the last few years, especially in the last 1 year. The ability of industry to hire is really sticky. A lot of them have rationalized, laid off, and a whole lot of issues. So also this is a serious challenge, not just for the public sector, but for the private sector to respond to the new demand of minimum wage, because this will again increase labor costs within the industry.
But at the end of the day, if labor insists on their minimum wage and the states say, look, we can't pay, because if some states are just announcing that we'll begin to implement 18,000 naira minimum wage, what should the middle ground be?
Of course, there must be a middle ground. We are just hearing that states in the south, I think those states moved from 18,000 to 25,000. Whether that is political, whether that is about, there is already a middle ground moving. At some point, we'll find a middle ground. See, there is no problem we can't solve in this country. What Nigerians want to see is transparency, openness. By the time the labor come out with this data we're demanding, and state come out with this with the statistics, and also live by it, of course, we'll have a middle ground, and industry will likely respond. It's not a death sentence, but it's important that we begin to recognize that the economy is having challenges, and oil price going back to the level it was in 2013, 2012 is not the solution. The problem will just hide behind the door to come out even more severe.
We need to relax.
Exactly. We need to restructure our economy. Non-oil revenue, we need to look at it very seriously. The way government borrow, both at the state level, we need to look at it again. And borrow to do what? You borrow to consume. Theoretically, borrowing is not bad. But when you borrow, you know that future generation is the one you are borrowing to pay. So you should be able to employ that fund you are borrowing for to benefit future generation by building infrastructure. And if we build the right infrastructure in the right places, of course, we'll be able to open up the industry. And
you think the capacity of the private sector is there for us to take advantage of? Yes.
The private sector is always capable, and what we're only asking for, even at the private sector, is the enabling environment. Enabling environment. See, the ease of doing business report or ranking by World Bank 2016 put Nigeria at 169 out of 185 countries plugs it. This is challenging. Nigeria is one of the worst places to do business in the world. Double taxation, difficulty to import and export, going into contract, settling dispute and all of that. We need the right policy. And what we have done in the private sector is to articulate about 140 laws that need to be made, reviewed or amended, and we're presenting it to the legislatures in Abuja, both the Senate and House of Assembly. To it? Exactly. The good news is that they are subscribing to it, but how much they will move fast, because again, they've spent about 1 year. We want them to move fast and address some of these policies, regulation, and laws to make the business environment a little bit more friendly and to be able to open up the industry.
If the budget is signed and passed into law this week, do you think this year the economy can at least take a step further?
Yeah, of course. There is always a relationship between budget being passed and also implemented and the private sector. The government spending is about 70% of the total spending in our economy. So the spillover effect when government begin to spend also flows down to the industry. Unfortunately, we've lost 1 quarter and 1 month already, and this is always a challenge we have every year.
Oh, well, that's a good place to leave it. Dr. Vincent Nwani is the Director of Advocacy and Research, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's where we'll draw the curtains as well today on the program. We thank you all for watching and for sending in your comments, especially about the states there. We'll be back tomorrow Chamberlain Oso.
Thank you, Maokwe Ogon.
Many thanks, Sulaiman. I'll see you again.